What is socially acceptable in the US that would be horrifying in the UK? Anything taking over an hour to get to being a short trip. When my Brit friends were visiting, they were horrified when the waiter took their credit card to swipe back at the terminal. This made them really uncomfortable. A rubber in England is not the same as a rubber in the US. Naming your child Randy. Edit. British people ITT. Wait. People don't really name their child Randy. Do they? Americans. What's wrong with Randy? Commercials advertising prescription drugs. Ask your doctor if OxyContin is right for you. Politicians mentioning religion when campaigning. Girls of Reddit. What was the best flirting technique someone did to you? Not sure if this counts as flirting. But he read my favorite book just so we'd have something in common to talk about. We'd met previously and he was trying to get out of the friend zone quickly. I told him I was too busy to date. He offered to hang out with me while I plowed through a ton of errands including an oil change, getting gas, returning shoes, picking up cleaning, and blowing up balloons for a party. It was so nice to have support of me being me and me doing stuff, and it was nice low-key no pressure hanging out to get to know each other. I was so busy that day I forgot to eat lunch and he got me a donut and coffee. I married him. Just being genuinely nice. My boyfriend was too shy to flirt with me at first since we're only friends. So he texted me saying I looked really nice that day after seeing me. And it was such a simple thing, but it really made my day better. And that can let the person know you are interested in them. It doesn't need to be a big scheme. Flirted with my dog first. My husband thinks he is flirting when he swings his peep around or pokes me with it. Made eye contact. Asked interesting questions. Listened to my answers and responded. He didn't make the conversation about him. People who actually grew up in the 90s, in their teens or 20s. What was it like? You had a very big book of music CDs and it was everything. If you went to a big concert or a music festival and you lost your friends, you just had to go on without them. It was life before cell phones and your parents didn't know where you were half the time. My dad had a pager. I remember playing basketball, baseball, and football with the neighborhood kids. Nickelodeon was good. Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers. Super Nintendo. Good times. Edit. You always carried change for the payphone. I graduated high school in 1995. I was in CA. I was totally into the grunge scene. I wore ripped-up clothes from the thrift store. I loved Nirvana, Alice in Chains, etc. I remember getting a pager that was $5 per month. You could get so many cases and buttons for them. After high school I didn't work for a year. I had to share my mom's car. I used to take it out at night for joyrides to LA and brought my friends so we could go dancing. She never found out. I think. The rave scene was going on. So I went dancing to techno, house and drum and bass all night. And yes, I did drugs. Everyone did them. My dad brought home a computer when I was 20. I learned HTML and linked websites to each other. That was before Yahoo, Google or even Dogpile. I used eBay for free and would buy and sell concert tickets and jewelry. I actually made money. And I used Match.com for free and met the first love of my life. We dated for 3 years until his life fell apart when his awesome band broke up. I knew I could work and go to junior college at night. I worked full-time in an office at age 21. Then I got to go to the university. I only paid $2,000 a year at a Cal State university. I shared a condo with 2 roommates and only paid $300 a month. I went to the dealer and got the car I wanted. A red Honda hatchback. for the price I wanted to pay. I had excellent credit, so I racked up $10,000 in debt and it was no problem to pay the minimum payments. I made $11 an hour at office jobs. I went out with friends. Dated a punk guy for a while. Went to concerts and dive bars all the time. I moved around to different apartments. Dated a lot of people. And had a lot of fun at the clubs. I paid my way to a BA degree. It was all fun and games until 9/11 happened. Pearl Jam. Clove cigarettes. Long-distance phone bills. ASL? What is your "this person has no idea how the real world works" moment? My boss told me about a friend of his who told him a life hack. She would get her bills in the mail, not pay them, and then wait a couple of months to pay. Then she would cry so the debt collectors would feel bad and waive the fees for not paying on time. That was her brilliant life hack. At a national park. The park ranger says, "Stay on the trails. There are bears in the area." One lady says, "Isn't that dangerous? Why aren't they in their cages?" Quote, "Ma'am, we're not a zoo." When my girlfriend said to me that she was going to easily work 3 jobs at the same time. Edit. We were in high school at the time. 2 things immediately come to mind. First being a young girl I used to work with at Target. She was hired for the 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. shift. But she regularly showed up between 8 to 9 a.m. without any good explanation. After the 3rd time or so, our supervisor asked her if she had something to do in the morning, such as getting kids ready for school, that required a later shift. If so, she could be moved to the 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. shift. The girl's response was, "No. I still want to leave at 2:30. I just don't want to get up that early." She was fired when she refused to acknowledge that you cannot make your own schedule. Second is one of my roommates. A 23-year-old who is quite literally unable to take care of herself in any capacity beyond ordering fast food. I once heard her yell at her mother because she was filling out a job application and got stuck on a section. Her mom was trying to help her finish but she got frustrated and screamed, "Can't you just fill it out? I want to go play my games." Before you ask. No. There are no disabilities. She's just lazy, spoiled and incredibly stupid. The other day, my 18-year-old brother-in-law got married to his high school sweetheart in a parking garage so that they can live off campus at college together. Girlfriends. Now wife. Mother is an ordained minister. His parents, my in-laws, were very upset and he couldn't understand why because it's just a fake marriage for school. Oh no. Sweet boy. You are married. I just laughed and laughed. I love him dearly. He is a dumbass. I worked for a very sheltered and entitled mother as a nanny. Shortly after I got hired, she called me at 3 a.m. asking me to come in because the baby wouldn't stop crying. When I said no, she responded with, "But you're the nanny." And that was a constant thing. At one point she got sick of breastfeeding and asked if I could start nursing. All of this was very casual too. Like she wasn't really mean about it. What's the most blatant act of racism you have witnessed in person? A couple of years ago I had to go home after class to pick something up before I met up with my group for a group project. As I was on my way back to the bus stop, a random white guy stops me and starts listing off random addresses, demanding to know if I lived at any of them. I didn't. But even if I did, I wouldn't have given him that info since he was a completely random person. He finished listing off the addresses and said, "Oh, well, some Chinese fucker was hacking my Wi-Fi. I guess you're not all bad." I'm sure that there was no hacking of his Wi-Fi at all. He probably just had a faulty router, but I guess blaming the Chinese was better than figuring that out himself. Also, I'm not sure what the correlation between the addresses were because half of them were houses on my street and white families lived in them. Another instance was in February of last year. I decided to share a study room with a couple of students. And for the most part they were pretty polite. As they were packing up to leave, we got to talking about the topic of COVID, which at the time was only really kicking the shit out of China and Italy. The guy who was there goes on to tell me that my people kind of deserved it. And then he starts questioning me about the actions of the Chinese government and pinning the blame on me as if I was personally responsible for their actions. I've never even set foot in China. Earlier he had used the N-word with the hard R. And his girlfriend or whoever the fuck she was told him to stop. Well, during the exchange with me she joined in, saying, "Yeah, we're gonna beat you up for it." I was extremely uncomfortable, but they claimed it was a joke, so I just had to play along. I asked if he was even Muslim, since one of the things he blamed me for was the Uyghur concentration camps. And he said, my parents are? And I basically told him to GTFO in a joking manner. I was pretty seriously wanting him to get the fuck out of my face, but I purposely said it in a tone that they would interpret as a joke so that they didn't try to seriously argue with me. I was on Discord with a friend and when I told her she got pretty upset on my behalf. Old guy in his 70s walked up to me while at McDonald's and asked me, "Is that your camel parked out front?" Took a moment to register that he was being racist. I told him that there wasn't a camel in the parking lot and that he should see a doctor about his senile dementia. I'm not even Arab or Persian. I'm Puerto Rican. If you're going to be racist, at least make the effort to get the race right. The only thing worse than a racist is a lazy racist. I was driving out of my gated community and a lady stepped off the curb and in front of my car, yelling at the top of her lungs. She comes to the driver's side and is like, "I see you driving through here. Do you live here?" Quote. Her husband, not far behind, grabs her and proceeds to explain to her that I live literally around the corner from them. She then proceeds to ask me for my driver's license. As I laugh, I invite them over for drinks later. The husband thanks me as his wife continues to yell. 6 hours later, I walk to their house with a bottle of red wine and white wine, not knowing which they like. The husband answers the door. Shocked. He invited me in, only to have his wife say no. Embarrassed. He says he'll stop by later. Fast forward. He's one of my closest friends and she's still a raging bitch. Okay, I don't know if this counts, but here we go. So there was one girl in my class that swore up and down she was so woke. For example, a white kid would say something about liking sushi and she would go off and tell them that it was cultural appropriation to eat sushi. Anyways, my class was pretty much all friends, so we were sitting in a circle asking questions about each other, and one person asked, "What's your native language and what's the language you want to learn?" So everyone goes around and says a standard answer like, "My native language is English but I want to learn Japanese." So I'm the last person I answer, and this is what it went like. Me. I'm black, by the way. My native language is English but I'm learning Korean right now. Girl. But like, what's your native language? Me. English. Girl. But like, what language do people speak where you came from? Me. Huh? Girl. Come on, you know what I mean. Me. No, I don't. Girl. You're black, wouldn't your family speak African? Me. What, my family is from America, I'm black, I'm not African. Girl. Yeah, okay. So the rest of the class try to convince her that I'm from America and I don't speak African. And not every black person is African and it's different. But she just wouldn't believe us and got so mad to the point where she walked away. Edit. Thanks for all the upvotes and comments. To clear things up, I'm getting comments telling me she is not racist and it's just ignorant. I tried my best to reply to clear some things up, but this isn't a one-time thing. Multiple times she said things like this to me and said blatantly racist things that anyone that has a brain would know it's racist. This story just happens to be one of the many stories I have of her. Thanks, hope it cleared up my post. When I, Hispanic, was a landscaper, my boss and I were hired to do lawn work in a really nice neighborhood. I was approached by an angry elderly white man and he asked me what I was doing and told me I don't belong here. My boss, who was also white, had to come and basically fuck off and told him we were hired and allowed on the property we were on. IWM. Played in a band with an African American guitarist. We wrote songs together and became great friends. One day we went to a convenience market and there was a help wanted sign on the door. Watch this, he said, and went in the store to inquire about the job. 2 minutes later, he walked out and said with a sly grin, "The owner said they are no longer hiring. Now you go in." I went in the store. And 5 minutes later, came out with an application. "You see," he said, "you have no idea what it's like to be black." 30 years later, I still think about that day.
Subscribe, my brothers.